In Peru, Puno department authorities declare 3 days of mourning after 17 people were killed in the region as a result of police repression against protests, demanding Dina Boluarte's resignation and the closing of Congress. In Brazil, a federal Supreme Court judge ordered the arrest of Bolsonaro's former Minister of Justice for the raid on the 3 seats of government in the capital. And California state officials warn that 90% of its residents are on alert for flooding from another storm that threatens the U.S. Hello, welcome to teleSUR English. I am Estefania Bravo from the headquarters of Quito in Ecuador. This is from the south. In Peru, authorities of the Department of Puno declared 3 days of mourning after 17 people died in the region as a result of police repression against protests demanding Dina Boluarte's resignation and the closing of Congress. The decree signed by Governor Richard Hancosonco provides for a regional mourning on January 10th, 11th, and 12th. The national flag is to be hoisted at half-mast in all public institutions of the region. The document also calls upon the public prosecutor's office to open investigations against those responsible for the incidents that have plunged the department into mourning. The Ombudsman's office reported that the aggressions took place in the context of the 5th day of popular protests demanding the release of former President Pedro Castillo. Since January 4th, people have carried out blockades and protests in different parts of the South American country, rejecting Boluarte's government. And the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, launched an electric power project that will benefit 25 rural communities in the municipality of San Borja.
Brothers, we are very happy to be here in San Borges once again. In our province, Joseph Bolivian, to initiate these rural electrification projects that we are actually doing in the provinces of Joseph Bolivian, Teres and Vallequis of our department of Penny. Today, our provinces Valles in the municipalities of Guayamaril and San Borges, we are inaugurating this very important work of rural electrification and electricity had just got here to our communities here in the Penny.
In Brazil, a federal Supreme Court judge ordered the arrest of Jair Bolsonaro's former Minister of Justice for breaking into the headquarters of the 3 branches of government in the state of Brasilia. The Supreme Court judge accepted the petition filed by the Attorney General of the Union, Jorge Messias, who asked for the arrest of Anderson Torres and the rest of the public agents who participated or were omissive in the invasion of the government buildings last Sunday. On Tuesday, Ecuador's public prosecutor's office launched a preliminary investigation into an alleged corruption scheme within public companies involving Danilo Cabrera Druet, brother-in-law of President Guillermo Lasso. The investigation was opened after a report entitled "The Great Godfather" exposed an alleged corruption network led by Ecuador's president's brother-in-law. The network is suspected to be operating primarily in 2 state-owned electrical companies, National Electricity Corporation and the Electrical Corporation of Ecuador. In Cuba, the first week of 2023 began in an expert opinion with one of the most important rapprochements since President Biden took office, the opening in Havana of migration procedures that had been suspended for 5 years. From Havana, our correspondent Fabiola Lopez has more.
After long years of waiting, Jenny says she's happy. She will no longer have to spend thousands of dollars to travel to other countries to process her visa.
We have been waiting for 7 years, and finally the long-awaited day has arrived. Now approved. Happy, happy, happy. It is a family reunification. My husband is claiming the child and me.
Like Jenny, other Cubans are benefiting from the U.S. decision to return to Havana the delivery of visas for migrants after it was suspended due to mysterious health incidents that have yet to be clarified.
Actually, history has shown that there was not need to have that justification which affects us.
Experts warn of the incoherence of U.S. policy. New migration measures recently announced by the U.S. president attempt to discourage illegal migration to the United States, but the Cuban adjustment law remains in force.
This is not only a problem for the families that resort to the irregular route, it is also a problem for the U.S. authorities because of the growing number of people entering the country illegally. This is the responsibility of the United States. The simple reason, the main reason why so many people here decide to go to the United States is because there are very significant privileges for Cuban citizens arriving in that country that no other citizen in the world has. This, together with the Titan blockade, the 240 measures imposed during the Trump administration and still in force.
Dairon Roque, a researcher at the Institute of Philosophy, points out that this could be a good moment to open a window of opportunity if Biden understands that his permanence in the White House doesn't depend on the vote in Florida.
If Ben Rocks, who knows the issue because he was in the 2013-14 talks with the Cuban government, when he says literally this is not rocket science, if you destroy the economy of a country that is 144 kilometers away, you cannot expect anything other than the massive arrival of immigrants. When someone like Ben Rocks is saying that, he is pointing out a path, which is we are going to look for a way to alleviate hostility. We are going to look for another policy that allows even for our interest to function in another way.
These days, just a few meters away from the U.S. Embassy in Havana, at the Institute of Philosophy, this group of students from the University of Long Beach in California is carrying out an academic exchange program. teleSUR talked to Professor Stephen Osuna about their experience here and the relations between Cuba and the United States.
In the United States border, there is a humanitarian crisis created by the government itself. It is not a migrant crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis because of the government's migration policies. Now we are seeing many Cubans arriving at the border of Tijuana and San Isidro, and to try to eliminate that, they are giving us visas to enter. It is a way that is not going to eliminate the problem. It is a way of trying to maintain the problem, and I think that's what it is. Maintenance, not elimination, but maintaining this problem, that the only way to eliminate it is to eliminate the blockade.
Talks on migration issues, exchanges between experts and officials of the two nations have marked U.S.-Cuban relations in recent months. The government of the island has said that these are steps in the right direction, but still insufficient. They warn that the nerve center of bilateral relations that has triggered the migratory flow, the blockade, needs to be addressed.
Fabiola Lopez, teleSUR, La Habana.
We're taking our first break now. Join us again after this. And also don't forget to follow us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English for more. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. In the U.S., for the second consecutive day, the strike of the nursing staff in New York continues. They demand better salaries. According to the New York State Nurses Association union, wages stalled for almost 3 years after the COVID-19 pandemic. The Nurses Association noted that after several months of contract negotiations with major hospitals in the metropolis, no agreement has been reached. In the UK, unions announced on Tuesday that they will maintain the strike call for the National Health System workers after a meeting with the Minister of Health, Steve Barclay, which they described as an insult. Nurses, auxiliary, and ambulance personnel are called to protest from mid-January onwards, affirmed the Secretary General of the unit region, Onai Kassab. The government has argued that inflation matching pay rises will only fuel further increases.
Unfortunately, the government have missed yet another opportunity to put this right. We came here in good faith. What they want to talk about is productivity. Productivity, when our members are working 18-hour shifts, quite how you become more productive with that, I do not know. But today, unfortunately, despite us showing up in good faith, the government have missed yet another opportunity to put this right. And what will happen is that the strike action taking place by Unite members, our ambulance workers, and I think it is important to remember, this is about across the NHS. This isn't just nurses. Everybody who works across the NHS is just as important. Our ambulance members will be taking strike action on the 23rd. So very disappointed today, but unfortunately,
Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni made her first official visit to see Pope Francis at the Vatican on Tuesday, fulfilling what she said was hope for an opportunity to better understand the Argentinian pontiff. Meloni, who came to the power on a campaign motto of God, Family, Fatherland, spent 35 minutes with Francis alone before she met with the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, and the Foreign Minister, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher. Spokesperson for the UN Secretary General Stéphane Dujarric confirmed that the M23 group is still operating. The official added that the situation is under control but remains tense.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo, our peacekeeping mission there, tells us they're conducting new patrols in the Rodrodo area of Jugu territory in Ituri province after a series of attacks by the Codeco militia. The mission reports that the situation is under control but remains tense. At least 18 civilians were killed, including 17 on Sunday. Thousands have been displaced and are seeking shelter at a site in Rome.
Dujarric also called on regional countries and authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo to work together to ensure the safety of the people.
The M23 group, as far as we know, continues to operate. There are other groups. What we do know is that large parts of that area are not safe for people. People will seek safety wherever they can. It is incumbent on the authorities in the DRC, on the regional countries, including all of the DRC's neighbors, to work together to ensure that people in the DRC are safe and secure in their homes.
The United Nations organization published a report warning about the high infant mortality rate in the world during the year 2021. According to the UN Interagency Group for the Estimation of Child Mortality, some 5 million children died before their fifth birth in 2021, while more than 2 million children and young people between the ages of 5 and 14 lost their lives, mainly because they did not have the adequate health care. In this sense, the organization urged the international community to invest in a fairer health system, since if urgent measures are not taken, almost 60 million children and young people could die before 2030. In the United States, authorities of the state of California decreed a state of alert due to floods caused by heavy rains that have left 16 dead so far. Officials indicated that 90% of the California population is under a flood watch due to the storm battering the region in the south of the country. In this context, they warned that the storm threatens to cause power outages, landslides, among other damages. The heavy rainfall has prompted the cancellation of commercial flights and school activities and the evacuation of approximately 10,000 residents in the area. We're taking our last break now. Join us again after this, and also don't forget to follow me on my Twitter account at teleSUR for more. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. On Tuesday, Israeli occupation forces wounded 2 Palestinian youths during clashes that took place in Aqaba town north of the West Bank city of Tubas. According to local sources, one young man was shot in the shoulder and thigh and was transferred to the nearest hospital facility where he was reported to be in moderate condition. The other Palestinian was shot and held for several hours by Zionist troops before being handed over to Palestinian Red Crescent medics. On the other hand, during the previous day, at least 10 Palestinian youths were arrested during a raid in the Iswaya region of occupied East Jerusalem. And on Tuesday, the Nepalese Prime Minister Prachanda sailed through a vote of confidence, cementing his leadership. The Prime Minister, the oldest Nepalese lawmaker, told Parliament after the voting process that 68-year-old Prachanda won 268 votes, exceeding the 138 required. Only 2 parliamentarians voted against him in the 275-member parliament. In this case, 3 lawmakers were absent and 1 was suspended. Experts from Russia, Singapore, and Zimbabwe confirmed that China's optimized COVID-19 management measures will bring more opportunities for economic development, both for the Asian giant and the world. According to Sergei Kotlin, chairman of the Russian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Chinese government's decision will boost economic confidence around the globe. He added that by doing so, bilateral trades between both nations will be greatly enhanced. China on Tuesday suspended visas for South Koreans to come to the country for tourism or business in response to COVID-19 testing requirements on Chinese travelers.
Regrettably, a handful of countries, in disregard of science and facts and the reality at home, have insisted on taking discriminatory anti-restriction measures targeting China. China firmly rejected this and took reciprocal measures. We once again call on all parties to make sure that the COVID response measures are fact-based, science-based, and proportionate, and avoid politicizing COVID. The measures should not be discriminatory or affect normal cross-border travel and exchanges and cooperation.
Greece has now overturned a previous decision, and he has moved to impose a pre-flight COVID test requirement for all arrivals from China. The U-turn comes a few days after direct flights between the 2 countries were re-established. The decision has raised questions among business owners who were keen to welcome an influx to Chinese tourists.
To be honest, I'm not afraid at all. I have many Chinese clients and I know that they will respect us and take all precautions so they can be safe and make sure that we will be safe.
I'm not concerned at all. I'm sure that before they leave China they will be fully vaccinated and take all safety measures. Yes, we have to be careful, but not only for air travellers from China but everywhere. I'm looking forward to the Chinese coming to Greece.
The virus is a thing of the past, and I'm not worried about it at all. It's become part of everyday life. We've taken all measures, from tests to vaccinations, so I don't think Chinese tourists are the problem. Quite the contrary. The real problem we face at the moment is inflation. That's our main worry.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also be sure to follow us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm Estefania Bravo. Until next time.